Ugh. Hey guys, this is Gene Jensen, and it's time for our September live hangout. I've got somebody that's got some background noise here real quick. There we go. And I opened up the window to cool my room off, and I got a few bugs in here. But anyway, tonight's just like a question and answer thing. I'm going to cycle everybody in and out as much as I can, try to get as many people in here as I can, and just do question and answer, talk about what's coming up, the fall, the winter, baits, tackle, line, lure, whatever pops into our head, and everybody's going to join in the answering, and everybody's going to join in the questions. So you'll have to excuse me, I just had a whole bunch of ice cream before I started this thing, so I'm still trying to keep it down.
Me too.
So let's get started. You know, it's one announcement I want to make is summer is officially over. Oh my goodness.
Welcome fall.
Yeah. But oh gosh, I'm sorry, I had a commercial pop up in my sound. Okay, there we go. The commercial on YouTube kicked in because it's 9 o'clock. But anyway, so you guys who followed me all the summer long, I was banging my head up against the wall and the concrete and the boat and everything else because the fishing was so tough, and it is every summer, and I get mad every summer, and my confidence goes into the toilet. So, but it's now the temperature's falling. The things I look for when it comes fall is I look for the daytime highs to be lower than the water temperature, and the daytime lows to be very low. So that's happening. We're in a cold spell. It's going to get back up into the 80s this next week, but it won't warm. It's only going to be like 81, 82, 83. So it won't warm the lake up any, at least not enough to really make a difference. So that's kind of what I look for. That's my start of the fall, and that's when I break out my rattle traps and my spinner baits and my baits basically, and I run the bank. I turn the trolling motor on as high as I can and still be able to work my baits and run the banks until I figure something out. Points and little pockets to start with, and then as the fall progresses on, we go back into the backs of the creeks. But anyway, so let's start off with questions. We just had a question. Frank asked one, and I'm gonna talk about that. He asked, why do buzzbaits catch fish? And it's a good question because my theory is it just pisses them off. And what I said was that you can cast at a log or a stump several times with a buzzbait, and all of a sudden 10 or 15 casts into it, you catch a fish on it, or you can run the bank and catch them all day long. It's just a commotion on the surface, and I've caught them in the bright sunlight. But my best buzzbait days are cloudy days. So it's low visibility. Kind of murky water, maybe the bass are in the grass, so they can't see very much. They can't see through the tops of the grass, but it's submerged grass, so I'm buzzing the buzzbait across, and they come out of it just to react to it, and they want to catch it before it gets away from them. So, let's see. But I'm just checking sounds and noises. I've got Joseph muted. Let's see if I can unmute him and see if Nope, still too much background noise. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now is I'm just running the bank with the buzzbait. I tried to buzzbait a little bit this afternoon, but I did my MTB slam this morning, and there was not a buzzbait in the box, so I didn't fish a buzzbait this morning. But I'll tell you something, though. One thing I noticed about MTB slam, especially this month and last month, is they're getting a lot better at putting lures in the box that are season specific, and not so much region specific, because everybody thinks that their region is different. The bass in their part of the country are different than the bass in another part of the country. But I'm here to tell you, a bass is a bass, and it'll bite just about any lure you throw at it if it's in the right mood, or depending on conditions and stuff like that. And you just have to find the fish and then figure out their moods and then try to match their moods. And that's my trick with the MTB slams is find them and then figure out what kind of a mood they're in. And if they're in the mood to bite, or if you can get them to have a reaction bite, then you can I want to figure out how to take each of those baits and make it act almost the same way or do the same thing, be a reaction bait, whether it be a worm or anything else. So, and I'm just rambling. Anyway, let's start off with some questions. Anybody got some?
I got one, Gene.
Okay, go ahead, man.
So, generally speaking, it's probably more for this.
Hold on.
No.
I don't know who that was. Anyway, go ahead.
So, for the southeast area, so before we went live, we were talking about patterns.
Uh-huh.
With water temperature. So now, water temperature last weekend before was 78, 80 degrees, depending on the time of day. I was finding them in pockets on the main lake. Generally, what water temperature they start migrating to the third, the first third, the second third, the back third of the creeks. It's like 75, they start moving, and 70, they're at the back or lower.
For me, it's not really I wouldn't say it's a water temperature thing. I think it's more of a light angle, and I may be totally off base with this. To me, that's what I think it is. But I go off of my history. September through 3/4 of the way through October, they're going to be in the first third of the creek. And then the next 3 weeks, they're going to be in the middle third. And then in the last 3 weeks, they're going to be in the back third. And that's here in Georgia. So that, of course, the further north you go, that time gets narrower and narrower. And the further north you go, then you don't have shad that make the migration anyway. So when we're talking about shad lakes, that's what I'm talking about is that for the first part. And just like you divide the creeks up into thirds. First third of the fall, it's going to be the first third of the creek. Second third, and so on. And that back third is my favorite. When they get in the back and get in those shallow little areas in the back of the creek, it concentrates all the bass and it concentrates all the shad. And you just throw a buzz bait and rattle trap and some type of a moving bait, and just all day long you're catching good quality fish. At least that's my history. And if your lake doesn't have good quality fish, or you're in the wrong creek with the wrong fish, you'll know you'll be catching smaller ones and stuff like that. So,
I noticed the same thing about light. So, a couple weeks ago, water temperature's been about the same, like I said, between 78 and 80. I'll get out there this week, and it dropped with all the rain and 60-degree temperature this week. But I noticed when it was cloudy, I find them 3 feet of water real shallow, but the same water temperature. It was sunny out, and they weren't shallow. They were off points in deeper water, so that makes sense though.
Yeah, and that's just kind of my just my version of it, and it's I've got a video out, matter of fact, on how I found them in the fall, and I'll go out. And I'll start in that middle third, and I'll go to the back third, or I'll go to the front third, and just look on my fish finder and see where they're at. And if you're bank fishing, just start looking for life on the surface, because if there's bait fish in the area, especially early in the morning, they're going to be up shallow, and you'll be able to see them. Pulling into the boat ramp this morning, I looked out, and I was halfway up the river channel on the boat ramp I put in on, and it was slick water, and there were just balls of bait fish everywhere. And had I put in down on the south end of the lake, it would have been just the opposite. There would have been nothing, And so I stayed right in that area. And if I'd have put in and there had been nothing, I'd have gone somewhere else. And I'm looking for the bait fish, because that's the dinner table. That's where the bass are going to be. Even if there are bass down there where there's no bait fish, it's going to be easier to find the ones that are active and feeding anyway. So that's why I tend to stay in that area.
So that was an issue I had in the summertime, a few weeks, early August. 85, 90-degree water temperatures. You go in the shallows of some creeks, I could see schools of bait fish around, but I couldn't get a bite on a bass. So, do some bait fish not migrate, or
you know what?
Shallow, and the bass move and feed off other bait fish, because there were schools and schools of bait fish in 4 or 5 feet of water at 90-degree water temperature, but multiple weekends I couldn't get a bite.
Now the question is, were they bait fish, or were they fry from like bluegill fry, or were they teeny tiny, or were they
They were probably about an inch long.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know without being there. But like today, I think the reason I was catching fish in the backs of these pockets are the longer pockets, and I've actually proved this a little bit, about a half hour after I caught the fish there, but is that the bluegill had moved shallow into the timber, into those laydowns, and they were just little bitty bluegill, and I think that's why the bass were there, and they were there because they weren't after shad or anything else. The bluegill were right there, and they were in there feeding on them. And so that was a total change from the pattern I was fishing that morning, or even the day before, or yesterday. Was I was fishing the ones that were chasing the shad that were going up and down the main river channel, and I was fishing those points that stick out into the river channel where those bass were. And like I said, I see the bait fish, but I don't fish the bait fish. I fish the cover and the structure that are in that area. And because the bass are kind of like deer hunters, they're going to sit up on a stand location and they're going to wait to ambush the deer, And the same thing, they're going to set up on a point, they're going to set up on a brush pile and wait for that ball of bait fish to come to them. And it may come to them in 20 minutes, it may come to them by the afternoon, but eventually there's going to be a ball of bait fish or several balls that go by them if they're in an ideal location. And so that was what was nice about today, is I could go to a point and say, there's a fish right there, and make one cast and drag it, and within 5 feet get bit. And they weren't big fish, like I said before we started. They were short ones, but it was nice to be able to finally do that and not have to cover all kinds of water. And so, and that's kind of developing a pattern anyway. But
when you say the back third of a creek, are you referring to like the very end of the creek? Or?
The very back of the shallowest part of the creek. Now, basically, this is kind of it's a rule of thumb, and it's what I've been taught for years and years. And when we're talking, when I'm talking shop with other guys that fish the same lakes I fish, that's what I ask in the fall, and that's what I ask in the spring. Where are you catching them, in the first third, the middle third, or the back third? And that creek may be 200 yards long, and it may be 2 miles long. I'm going to take that creek on the map, and I'm going to divide it up into thirds. And I'm going to say, okay, here's the front third, here's the middle third, and here's the back third.
The front third, you would say, is the one that leads to the open, or the biggest main part of the body.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Whatever the biggest, it may be a river, a river channel, or it may be a major lake. And even the pockets, if you have long pockets that have a little bit of water running into the back of them, same sort of deal. I always focus on the big major creeks and the big major tributaries to a lake when I'm fishing in the fall, just because that's where the majority of the fish are going to be anyway. So at least in my experience, that's where they've been. So, but yeah, you just divide it up into thirds, and that's just a matter of how to explain it to people, or how to explain it to each other, of where you're catching fish and where you're finding them. So,
when you talk about patterns, are you mainly talking about just areas, or are you also talking about specific baits as well? Like which one is more frequent for you?
For me, depending on I'm gonna totally put Clark Hill aside, my home lake, because it's a blueback herring lake. And hold on, I'm gonna try to figure out who's got the echo. Anyway, I'm going to totally put that aside and go to talk about other lakes that I like to pattern. And for me, it first of all, it's exact spots or location. And I don't know who's got that really bad echo, but it's bugging the snot out of it. Exact spots and locations. So like I'm fishing docks, and my pattern is docks in 8 to 10 feet of water, where the ends of them are in 8 to 10 feet of water, and the fish are on the outside posts. Outside corner post. In other words, they're in the premier ambush spot on the dock, or a point. Are they on the ends of the points in 20 feet of water, or are they at the shallowest part of the point in 2 or 3 foot of water, or anywhere in between? And a lot that dictates that is just simply season. So that's your starting point. What season is it? Are the fish going to be deep? Are they going to be shallow? Are they going to be halfway in between? What's been the last few days, whether it's windy or whatever else. That's a matter of locating the fish. Then once you locate the fish, or locate an area that has a lot of fish, where is the premier spot where you can say, I know there's a fish there? So in a dock, there's a lot of background noise, guys. Did you guys hear that, or is it just me?
That was my phone. Okay.
I'm gonna try to figure out who's got the background noise because it's bad. But I'm looking for that one spot. Like when I'm fishing docks, I like to fish docks when it's sunny because that gives you all the shade that you need. And the shade is where I'm going to pitch to. Are they in the deepest part of the shade, or are they in the shallowest part of the or the outside part of the shade? I'm sorry, I'm totally losing it. I don't know who is got the background noise. Okay, it was somebody that just dropped out. But so like if I'm fishing a dock and it's sunny, my pattern might be the very darkest part of that dock. Can I get a bait in that little spot right there? And if I catch one fish there and go to the next dock and catch another fish the exact type of place, then I've got that pinpointed. And it may not be the type of bait, or the exact bait, but it may be the type of bait. I hope I'm making myself clear. I feel like I'm confusing myself. But does the fish want a bait that's falling, and want it falling fast or falling slow? For example, okay, let me try to pinpoint something. Ish Monroe, in one of the Major League Fishing deals, and I don't know whether this was true or false, but he was fishing in about docks in about 2 or 3 feet of water, but he was using a 1.5 ounce tungsten weight. And it wasn't to punch. He said it was to surprise them so much that they bit. In other words, that thing would go in and just hammer the bottom, and it was a hard bottom underneath these docks.
There was a video I watched with him on that. He called it dropping bombs.
Yeah, dropping bombs is what he called it.
Dropping bombs.
And so he figured out that the fish were not in the mood to bite, but they would hit a reaction bait. In other words, you could surprise them so much if you could make a pinpoint cast where they would be. In other words, his spot was the darkest spot right next to a post, or where a piece of or line of grass came up against some wood on the dock, or metal on the dock, whatever was going down to the bottom. And if he could get it within 2 inches of that spot and drop it, it would be right next to the fish's mouth, because he found out that the fish had their nose right up against that post. And he could go to a dock and say, there's a fish right there. Flip it in, boom, and set the hook.
Whenever I go out for, because I usually don't go out, every day or every other day. I usually go out, on a weekend whenever I have time. I just go whenever I have time.
Right.
So usually conditions are always different from the last time, so I don't try and fish history.
Right.
And I always start it with points, because I'm a bank fisherman, and that's just basically what I have easy access to. So I always start on points, because there's about 3 or 4 points on the lake I usually fish right next to each other in walking distance. So I stand on the end of the point, and I just use baits. And I basically use baits as my pattern, and then I go to the next point and to the next point. I'm usually always fishing points. I don't really, I guess you can call that a pattern, but I'm always fishing points. So I use baits as my basically pattern.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll tell you.
Is that a way of thinking of it? As baits?
That's part of it. The thing about putting all the puzzle pieces together is what on the bottom, or what made that fish be right there where you just caught it, is what you're trying to figure out. What made that fish? Why is that fish right there? And is there another place like it somewhere close by or somewhere on the lake? Like I was fishing. I talked about this the last hangout. I was fishing with a client, and I took him to a public fishing area that I grew up on, so I know the place pretty good. And he wanted to learn how to fish small ponds, so I took him to these ponds. There's 22 lakes on this public fishing area, and there's 4 or 5 of them you can put a boat in. So we put my boat in, and we were fishing hard and not catching fish. And this lake's full of timber, and through trial and error, we caught one fish real shallow on a laydown. It was a log just laying in the water. And I said, and I kind of looked at it. I got up real close to that log, and I looked at it, and there was about this much space underneath that log between the bottom and the top, and the bottom of that log and the bottom of the lake. And so I said, okay, that might be something. So we went on down and kept fishing, and I saw another log that was laying in the water, but it wasn't on the bottom. And I flipped in there and caught another one, and it was about 4.5 pound, maybe 5 pound fish. Caught it, and I said, okay. I said, now And I turned to him and I said, man, we're going to go and we're going to hit every log that's laying in the water but not touching the bottom. And we caught a fish on every single log just like that all around the lake. And there were only like 10 logs like that, but we caught 10 fish. You know, and it's more what makes that fish there and what made him bite. And so, like today, I was catching them on points with rock or wood, but I didn't find any points that really had grass because I wasn't fishing that part of the lake. But you know, I was looking for points that had something that came out into the water on that point, whether it be a laydown or a vein of granite or a vein of quartz or whatever. We have a bunch of different types of rocks that come out on these points. And if the point didn't have any rocks, it was just a plain clay point. I stopped at a couple of them, didn't catch anything there, so I just kept on going. And so, and kind of find out after about 2 hours into it, and I caught several fish, I could go to a point and say, okay, this one's got a line of rocks coming out into it, and I could make a cast in 2 feet of water, and I say, okay, there's a fish right there, bam, and get a bite and set the hook. And it really would not have mattered what I threw at him. Okay, I could have thrown a spinnerbait and caught him. I could have, and what I was catching him on was a mojo rigged trick worm, just because that's what I felt like fishing, and I felt like I could catch more fish with it. It was all in my head, but I just knew that there was a fish right there, and I knew if I could get it in his strike zone, he was going to bite. So, it's just a matter of that's the biggest thing is deducing from your bites, and the better and better you get at it, the less fish you got to catch to figure that out. I got one buddy, Ryan, the guy that did the Banks Fishing 101 with me. He can learn more from one bite on one fish biting than anybody I've ever met and ever fished with. He will tell you what angle that fish came in at, what it did right after it bit. Did it grab it and turn with it? Did it grab it and run with it? He'll tell you, what it came off of and exactly what he was doing when that fish bit. And he will be able to deduce that faster than anybody I've ever met. If I can get him to the point where he can afford to tournament fish, everybody better look out. He's going to be awesome. But yeah, that's just it. Just learn from your fish, learn from your bites.
Hey, Gene, I got a question for you.
Yeah, Sean.
I live in Pensacola, Florida, and I go really more towards it's called Blackwater or Escambia River. But what I'm running into most of the time is I'm going with a crankbait. Because I've tried wigglers, I've tried buzz baits. I haven't got as much luck as I have. And it seems a crankbait works more of hooking a fish than them getting the bite. It's like the travelers get into them and snatch them. But it's more of a bluegill hybrid type bass that I'm getting more than a bass.
Oh, so you're catching more bluegill, more.
Oh yeah.
Okay, more bluegill, and probably you're catching like what we call warmouth. Big mouth bluegill is basically what they look like, and so that's just going after a whole different species. And you Florida
and I'm
Gator,
not trying.
You Florida Gator fans or something else. Let's see. You know what? Down where you live, there's one angler that I would go and study his work and God bless his soul. He died last year, and the world is gonna miss him. Is Doug Hannon, or the Bass Professor. He was a little quirky, but that son of a gun grew up fishing down there, and he knows that area. And some of the things he did, and some of the studies, he used to go scuba diving down in those black waters and stuff like that, playing with the gators, and
Brave man.
Yeah, brave man. Like I said, he's a little quirky, and I'm real good friends with basically his blood brother. I mean, and the one thing he invented that most people don't realize is he invented the weedless prop for your trolling motor. The trolling motor prop that knocks the weeds off. He's the one that invented it. He's a genius, or was a genius. But anyway, study his work. Find out everything you can about Doug Hannon and what he did. He documented a lot of it. He's caught dozens and hundreds and hundreds of 10-pound plus bass, and his clients have caught them too back when he guided. And so that's the biggest thing I would say is just study what Doug Hannon did about those Florida strain largemouth bass that you have down there, and I swear you'll start catching the snot out of him. Because he knows his stuff. You'll stop catching bluegill and warmouth, I promise. Oh, let's see. Any more questions?
So,
hold on, Ben. Frank's got a question.
yeah, go ahead.
Everyone always talks about using white spinnerbaits or white and chartreuse or chartreuse, like just solid colors. Is there any other colors that are worth trying? Or is it dependent on the body of water you're fishing and the environment?
You know, where you live up north, and you have a lot of of bluegill and perch up there too that the bass eat. And so I would go with kind of a fire tiger color, as they call it. It's got green and chartreuse and a little bit of orange in it. It's a bluegill pattern spinnerbait. I don't even. It's just fire tiger is just a color scheme. And they have fire tiger spinner baits and crankbaits and all kinds of other stuff. But if you Google search fire tiger color, I swear you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. And
that's that's good for pike fishing though. Like a jerk bait, like a fire tiger pattern. Those work really well.
Yeah.
Anything deep diving for pike, right? But I never thought about using the fire tiger pattern.
Well, I mean, your bait fish up there are the fish that the pike eat or what the bass eat too, and so
right there's.
Yep. Yeah, and you'll catch a lot of pike. I mean, like I told you the last time, we have chain pickerel, which are our version of the pike. And there was a point in time today I was throwing my favorite spinnerbait, and I was fishing what we call them jackfish. I was fishing the jackfish circuit because I caught like 10 in a row, and realized that I was fishing these little grass stick-ups, and the only thing I was going to, after catching 7 or 8, I realized that the only thing I was going to catch out of those grass were going to be jackfish. And so, it's just a matter of try to, and I hate to say match the hatch because we're not fly fishermen, but try to get close to what your bait fish look like, especially in the fall when the perch or the yellow perch are getting up and getting active, and they're good eating size and stuff like that. Start throwing that type of a pattern bait for bass, and yeah, you're going to catch pike. But if you start catching nothing but pike, move and go find some place that's got bass.
Well, if I catch pike, then I'm going to catch pike, right?
Exactly, yeah.
About that.
And they'll shred your spinnerbait. Those son of a guns, they can tear up a spinnerbait, that's for sure.
Even where I live, everyone says, if you want to go pike fishing, go up north. Let's say you drive 5 hours up north, and they'll tell you there, go up north. Right? So, you see a pattern that the further up north you go, and I'm talking, if you guys think I live up north, then I'm talking like 5 to maybe 10 hours up north. That's like, okay, that's pretty good.
That's too far. Yeah, dude.
That's better.
I've been up to just about 70 miles south of the Arctic Circle up in Quebec, and the only thing up there is Arctic char.
The furthest up north is Alaska.
Oh, really? Yeah. I'd like to go up there one day. My dad did. I didn't. So.
Yeah, but that's salmon fishing. That's completely different.
Yeah. Anybody else got any questions?
So my question was, do you approach fall fishing differently depending on the type of lake? I'm not saying shadow blue herring, but the 2 lakes I go to here is you got one filled with hydrilla, and I don't know what the other type of grass is, but it's like silt. You're pulling up a silky silt grass. And the other lake doesn't have any of that. It's basically laydowns and some reeds. But is there really any difference of fall fishing or patterning those two?
My mindset when it gets to fall fishing, I get a lot more aggressive. And I, for like your hydrilla lakes, I'm gonna fish faster. I'm gonna fish with bigger baits. I'm gonna fish with just things that move real quick. until I find them, and then I'll slow down a little bit and try to catch as many as I can in that one area. And that other lake that's got the what I call what did I used to call it, like angel hair or something. I know what you're talking about. That pond slime that you get on your baits. It's just really thin grass.
Well, no, the one lake's filled with hydrilla. Half the lake has got hydrilla, and the other half is that pond slime.
Oh, okay. Oh, same
depending
lake.
on which side you go to, or which area you're in.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's filled with that vegetation. The other lake just doesn't have any of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how it is here too.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is my mindset goes from I'm so sick and tired of summer to it's time to get aggressive because it's fall. And then, and no matter what lake I'm in, even in those little lakes I grew up on, I find myself wanting to move a lot faster, and because I know the fish are going to be more aggressive, at least the little fish are. And so I just tend to move maybe faster than I ought to. You ask any of my friends that have watched me grow up in fishing, and I can go catch a limit of 5, but that one big kicker fish is always hard for me because I love to just go catch them and catch them and catch them, and I have not gotten to the point where I feel like I haven't gotten to the point where I can consistently go find the big fish and go figure out the big fish, because once I start catching them, little fish on finesse stuff, that's all I want to do. And I guess if I get away from that one day, then maybe I'll start getting better at fishing. But I love to catch the little ones anyway. So
I'm the same way. I just want to catch them. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't discriminate.
Last week when I was at the hydrilla lake, Sharon Harris, all I was doing for most of the day was using the square bill, taking the top of that hydrilla under the water, and I got some good bites there just doing that. So.
Yeah.
I guess that was a good tactic for me then. I don't know if other people use that, but
yeah, cool. Well, we're down to it's 9:30. So if you guys still have questions, you can stay on. We've had a few people knock off, so I'm not too speaking too stressed on.
All right, I'm gonna go now, Gene.
All right, cool, man. Thanks, Frank. We'll see you.
No problem. And have you ever thought of doing another bank fishing video?
Dude, I want to do them so bad, and I just got to get to that point where I can manage my time better. Is basically where I'm at. As I've got so much I want to do and so little time to do it that I'm gotten horrible at managing my times. So, but it's in the plans. If I can't do it, I'm going to get somebody to do it, and it's going to be somebody that's good. And can communicate, to us dummies a whole lot better than a lot of people. So I know, dude. That's why I am the way I am, because working in a hospital every weekend, I'm the one that sits there and looks at the doctor. I said, "Can you please speak English?" Which is, I understand that. I understand what the book says, but tell me what it means.
All right, so I'll see you.
All right, Frank. Take care.
You too.
Hey, Gene, do you remember the last time we were on, and I asked you about that Spro frog filling up with water?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to give you an update.
All right, share it.
I emailed customer service.
That's broken.
Yes. And within a day and a half of response to send it back, that was not normal. And within I say 4 to 5 days, I had another one in my mailbox.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
So they stand behind it very well.
That's right. And that's so cool that and a lot of good old Southern boy companies, bass fishing companies are like
They're
that.
out of Kennesaw.
Out of Kennesaw. My wife's from up that way, so and I used to go up to Kennesaw a lot. You know what's really cool about Kennesaw? This is totally off subject, but Kennesaw is one of the few cities where if you own a house, you are required to own a gun.
Nice.
And it has got the lowest crime rate of any city in the state of Georgia. So
I've got some family from Cumming. So very familiar with the gun law there.
But
yeah,
my brother used to live there, and that was so cool. And you can, if you buy a house, you got to go take a gun safety course, and they teach all this stuff, and then you buy a gun, and whether you sell it 2 days later and not have it in your house, nobody cares.
nice.
So, but the thing is when you buy a house, you have to prove that you go out and buy a gun. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
They also replaced my popper too.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah,
Popping
both
frog?
of 'em.
That's
frog,
good.
The popper and the actual 65.
That's good. Yeah, Spro's a good company. There's some good old boys over there.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, I'm going to get off here and let somebody else get on.
All right, Larry. Good talking to you, man.
Have a good one.
You too.
I got on here a little late. What were we actually talking about?
We're talking about anything. We were talking about patterning bass, but it's kind of a Q&A. Let's have fun and shoot the bold.
I've been doing mostly bank fishing, and obviously around here in Wilmington, North Carolina, water gets real warm. It's probably a lot like there in, what are you in, South Georgia?
Middle Georgia, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's pretty much like that too, but I'm running into a lot of issues where it's really hard to predict what bass are doing in these ponds because they're not super big. Mostly I'm just running the banks with 3 feet out. I usually don't cast out further than that because most of the time you go deep, they're not doing anything.
Right. And so,
usually I'll do like a Texas rig. Very, very seldom ever use Carolina rig just because there's so much dead limbs and dead grass and stuff on the bottom that you just don't get any luck with it. So I usually go weedless, where I'll run like a buzz bait. I think I've had more luck on that buzz bait 2 feet from the bank than anything.
Yep.
I get those year round at banks. I catch stuff on those.
Yeah, that's pond fishing. You get switch from a buzzbait to a topwater frog, man, and sometimes that's just a blast. That Texas rig. Hold on, I just got somebody. There we go. The Texas rig is great. If you find yourself getting hung up a lot with a Texas rig, I just figured out that if you just go ahead and peg that weight up against that hook, you're a lot less likely to get hung up. And those new.
I've never actually tried that.
Those new swinging head jigs, the ones that have the extra wide gap hook with the jig head that kind of swings on the eye of it.
Yeah, I got one of those from Mystery Tackle Box.
Yeah,
it was super, super heavy too, though.
Yeah,
I need to find the right one.
There's a bunch of different companies that make a bait like that. They're called swinging football heads, and some of them make swinging round heads and things like that. I have found that son of a gun is more weedless than anything I've ever fished.
Really?
And you can get it hung up. Don't get me wrong; everything can get hung up.
Right.
But I swear that thing will come through anything better than anything else I've ever used. And so instead of a Texas rig, I would use that and just put whatever soft plastic on it. And what's nice about those ones that were in the Mystery Tackle Box is you can change the hooks out.
Yeah.
So
you can put your own hook in it if you want to.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Hey, Gene, on a topwater frog, what kind of line do you like using?
Hold on a second. I'm trying to figure out who's got all the background noise. I found them. The kind of line I like to use is almost always braid because it floats high. And I don't have to discriminate on where I throw that frog.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry. And I'll go at least 50 pound.
Okay.
And mainly because it floats a lot better than 20 pound.
Right.
And the hook sets I'm doing on a frog are, I want to break their head off. I just I'm throwing 50 pound to 65 pound just so I won't break the line on the hook set.
Don't waste no time.
And exactly. And you guys just talking about this gets me excited about fishing Chickamauga next week. I've got 15 frogs waiting for use right now, but I've got to go replace all all my legs. You know how living rubber, those legs will mold together if they haven't been used. If you don't use them, they'll melt together. Well, I've got to go replace them all. Luckily, I have some living rubber from back when I tied jigs.
How do you replace those?
You basically cut them out, and then you take a little, I can't remember what it's called. You go to the Hobby Lobby, and it was this tool that has a hook and a little clip on it. I can't remember the name of the tool, but it was crafting. You made little rugs out of stuff years ago. You used these little short pieces of yarn,
like the knitting rod.
Yes, that little blue-handled tool that you used with it. You basically take it and you run it through the frog and grab a hold of your living rubber and pull it halfway through and tie a knot in the middle of it, and then pull the other half through the other hole. and then your knots in the middle inside the body. It's tricky, but it can be done, and then you just clip and separate the strands. So, and there's other ways of doing it. You can do it with fishing line. You can do it with anything, but you take the hook out and you do it, and then you put the hook back in.
Well, I find the top water is just so neat to see that fish come out of that water.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I would do it every day. All right, who's got the echo? There it is. But yeah, I would do it every single day. I love Topwater. But let's see.
What's your favorite brand?
Sorry, go ahead. Say again, Micah.
What's your favorite brand for a frog? I like Spro, but I know sometimes they sink. So
I don't have a favorite brand. I like the ones that walk. So I've tried. I haven't tried very many, but Spros walk pretty easy. The young frog is a little bit more difficult than a Spro. The Bobby's Perfect Frog, I can walk that one pretty good. And like I said, if I can walk it good, I like it because that's what I'm fishing 85-90% of the time is I'm walking the bait.
yeah.
What about a popper frog?
Poppin' Frog, you actually can walk the Spro ones. I've never tried any of the other ones.
Yeah, that's why I have a Spro.
Yeah, I had a buddy who was sponsored by Spro, so I got a whole bunch of them years ago, and I keep recycling them. So, who's got all that background noise? It's Joseph. Joseph, I'm sorry, man. You've got something going on in the background. It's getting really rough and hard. I had to mute you. Any more questions?
You ever gonna come to Oklahoma?
I don't know.
Come on, man.
Eventually I will. So, Michael, what was your question?
What's your favorite fall pattern for largemouth?
Move some more.
What?
I move fast. I grab a circle and I just run the bank.
Nice. Yeah.
And then once I find them, I figure out what else I can catch them on.
Yeah, I was out today. Caught a couple on a frog actually.
Yeah.
And then flipped into some grass.
Yep. And I should have thrown a topwater this morning, but the mystery tackle box didn't have one in it. So when I was doing my MTB slam. So.
When's that video going to be up?
I hope to edit it tomorrow afternoon if I get a chance. I have to edit it before I leave to go to Tennessee next week, so it'll probably be tomorrow. I'll edit it, and then I hate to launch videos on Friday because all you guys are thinking about football.
I seem to be doing a whole lot less football watching and more time on the lakes lately.
Well, I know I will be this Saturday. We ain't got a game.
Yeah. Well, I'll probably launch it on Monday or Tuesday while I'm gone. But I tell you, it's so funny watching my numbers. You get to the first week of football, my numbers go whoop, and then deer season it goes down again, and you can tell every time another deer season opens up because my numbers drop even more. It's just and then Christmas Day is like a switch, and the numbers start to climb again. But it's funny. It's
Nothing
too
wrong
funny.
with your hunting.
You rednecks and you fishermen. I mean, I just tell you. Oh, I love the deer.
When I'm not hunting, I'm fishing.
You see my deer behind my light, and I got it. Well, you can't see them all because I've got everything's pinned up. But I got it. You see the back of that deer right there. My camera is zip tied to my to my desk, so I can't move it very far. But yeah, this is where my wife makes me keep my deer heads. But,
I'm gonna go ahead and get off here, Gene. It's been a pleasure, man. Your videos are great, and I appreciate you, dude.
All right, man. Thanks, Sean.
I'll hop off there too. So have a good night.
All right, man. Take care.
I got a question. How is a shaky head with cover?
Shaky head with what?
Like if you throw it in the cover, like timber and all that stuff.
Oh, it depends on the type of shaky head, really. It works pretty good. The one thing I've learned about a shaky head is when you do get hung up, like if you're in timber in brush piles and you get hung up, the best way to get it unhung is to point your rod directly at it and pull straight back. You know, tighten your line down and pull straight back, and it'll cause that head to pop over top. But it was designed to shake in brush. You throw it down in there, get it hung on a piece of brush, and just sit there and shake it, and then let it sit on the bottom and shake it even lighter. Some of the best fish I've caught on a shaky head have been pulling it up to a stick and getting that head stuck on the stick, and then just shaking it and causing that worm to shake right there on the stick. You know, so you just have to rig it weedless, and it depends on the type of shaky head.
It depends on the type of shaky head, really.
Drew, I'm going to mute you just for a second. You got a real bad echo. I'll unmute you in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, because I've been looking for a better something to throw in the cover. There's a lot of laydowns and stuff around here. I live in Jersey, and I'm still trying to find something that's good.
Yeah, watch that shaky head video of mine. It kind of gives you a general outline of how to do it, and then you can go from there. You fish it like a Texas rig. You can drag it like a Carolina rig. You know, all kinds of stuff. So I'm trying to see if Drew's echo is better. Yep. All right.
What's up, G?
Hey, man, how are you?
Doing good. Doing good.
Good, man. I don't know why YouTube does that. If people jump in, it start echo for about the first 30 seconds, and it's horrible. So
well, I think what's happening is I'm watching you on YouTube, and before I hit pause, I join in on the Hangout, so you're hearing yourself from YouTube on my computer.
Oh yeah, the old broadcast issue. You hear those radio guys yell at people all the time about turning their radio down. But cool. All right, anybody got any questions? I'm just going to keep asking.
All right, questions. I'm just going to keep asking. Watch that shaky head video of mine.
Let's see. I
have a question for you, Jimmy.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Do you have any experience with Dobbins rods?
Hold on, I got to echo. Shane, I'm going to mute you just for a second. I'm going to attempt to mute you. All right. Ask that again, Chris. I'm sorry.
I still hear the echo.
Yes, so do I.
All right, go ahead.
Do you have any experience with Dobbins rods?
Yes. I'll be totally honest with you, and I love my ducats, but if I could afford Dobbins, that's all I'd own.
Okay, because my college is actually sponsored by them, and me and my buddy, we plan to order some rods through the club, so
yep.
I have experience with the championship series just one time, and I loved it. So I was thinking about investing because I watched your ghost rod video, and I was like, oh, maybe I should look into those rods. But that's why I got on here, and I was like, maybe I should ask him if he's ever used Dobbins.
Yeah, I was actually on their pro staff until they changed their pro staff guidelines, and their guidelines are completely strictly for tournament anglers, and I fall under a whole different spectrum. I'm more of the commercial, promotional type deal, and so I kind of said that it doesn't cover me anymore, so I don't want to do it anymore. But and the other thing is I just couldn't afford even their pro staff deals. I was at a point in time where I just didn't have the money, and so and I'm still at that point, and I like to keep my rods about the price that the majority of my viewers or my subscribers would buy anyway. I don't want to be using a $350, $400 rod trying to show people how to fish, that kind of deal. Kind of keep my price point down. So.
Did you just have experience with their higher end rods, or did you ever use? I know they have a rod that's around 150.
The only ones I ever had was back when all they had was the Champion and the DX.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But golly, I love those rods. I miss them. There actually is a Champion, a Gen 1 Champion that I sold a guy that I'm about to buy back.
Really?
And I might do it on Monday because it's my frog rod and I want it for my trip to Chickamauga. So.
All right.
It's a 6'8" heavy, and I used it as a frog rod. And everybody likes those 7'3" and 7'6" heavy rods for frogs. I like a short one, and I caught so many stinking fish on frogs with that thing.
Why do you prefer the short over the longer rod?
Because it delays my hook set. I don't, when you get bit by a frog, you count 1, 2, 3. I don't typically do that. I can't do that in my brain. I can't make myself do it.
You get
So
how you want to set.
right. So I fish out of. I fish out of position. Let me explain this. I'm walking the frog anyway, and it's short, so I can walk the frog without hitting the water. So because I'm working down below my feet, and so I don't. So I'm not hitting the water, and then when I set the hook, I'm setting the hook up here. So I have to turn once. I have that amount of time from the time I have the bite. I turn once and I bring the rod up here, and just having that shorter rod takes up less line. So all of that combined, it makes for a delayed hook set without really having a delayed hook set. And I miss very few fish that way. Oh
yeah, I use a shorter rod for my frogs too. That's why I was just wondering.
Yeah, and it has to be a heavy action. You guys have seen my hook sets.
Yeah.
So.
You guys are talking about frogs a lot. What do you think about the Zoom, the horny toad? Plastic frogs?
I haven't fished them in a long time. I stopped fishing the horny toads when Rage came out with the Rage toad years ago. But they each have their own place. I'll tell you. Shoot, this is live. This is being recorded. One of the things we do with them is we put them on a buzzbait as a buzzbait trailer.
I may do that in the morning.
I'm gonna lose some friends over that. And I tell you, man, it's amazing. And even better is if you're fishing a spotted bass lake, take some methylate JJ's Magic and dye your entire horny toad pink and put it on a buzzbait. For spotted bass.
Feels like trade secret, huh?
It's amazing. Golly, it's amazing. But,
I actually saw, do you know Lake Forks guy?
Yep.
I saw him, I think he had a horny toad on a jig in his last night fishing video. I've never seen that before. He didn't talk about it, but I was like, okay, maybe I should try that because it's laying on his boat.
You know what? He does another thing I'm going to try this year, and I'm going to start trying it almost immediately, is he wacky rigs a Cinco as a trailer on his jig.
I saw Mikey Balls do something.
No, I'm sorry, you're right. It was Mikey Balls. It wasn't Lake Fork guy. Dadgummit, I was wrong. It was Mikey Balls.
I did see that video by Mikey Balls.
Yeah, dude, that's amazing. I'm going to try that. I mean, I've got to try that. It makes sense. It really does.
Yeah.
It's just something the fish haven't seen, and every time you jerk that jig, that thing will do this number. So, Lee, it comes to show you though, a bass will hit anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's all your imagination, and I know that Strike King and Zoom and everybody can convince you that their bait's the best that the planet's ever had, but 99% of it's between your ears, So just play around.
Get some of those off the wall lures from Mystery Tackle Box sometimes.
Yeah, that's why I like Mystery Tackle Box, because I can try those.
The Dahlberg frog, man. I don't know one person that around my area that has one of those, man, and I've caught more fish on that thing since I got that thing, man.
Now, okay, I've never fished one. I've never gotten one. How do you?
It's so fun.
How do you fish?
Not the diving one. Are you talking about
yeah.
I did. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't like it,
dude. I didn't like it at first. I started fishing it. Sorry, I gotta go to the other room. I'm waking my wife up.
I've not caught a fish on mine yet. I have a white one. I've thrown it half a dozen trips. Not even
let Chris tell you how he fishes it. Hold on a minute.
So okay. So you can fish those things two different ways.
Okay.
I've taken it and I've basically left it floating on top, and then I'll just kind of pop it, and it'll almost kind of do like the same thing what a popper does, and it'll throw up it'll kind of churn the water and kind of make that boop sound, kind of like a popper does. So you can pop it once or twice and then let it float back up, pop it once or twice, and you can float it, fish it like a popper. So I've done it that way. I've caught a couple fish that way, and then the other way I've done it is just real shallow. I try to fish it shallow, probably no deeper than like 3 feet deep, and I'll take it and I'll pop it on that first pull, and then I'll yank it 2 or 3 times down deep, and then I'll let it slowly float up to the top, and then I'll do it again, and I'll just repeat that, and then change up your cadence, of course. But that's how I've been successful with it, anyways.
I'm gonna. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead,
I'm
Chris.
gonna be honest. When I fished it, it was just like the other Chris was talking about. But the reason I didn't personally like it is because it was such a slow cadence. You know what I mean? Like you'd pop it, and then you'd have to wait like up to 3 seconds if you popped it deep. Because I think you were going off just how real it looked. And it was just, I didn't like it, and I fished it for my buddy. We did the MTB Slam, and when we did it, he fished for that frog with that frog all day. I almost completed the MTB Slam because we multiply it in 2 because it's 2 of us, and but I could not catch anything on that frog, and I just told him, I was like, I'm done with that thing. I can't do it.
I actually watched your MTB Slam. That was a pretty good one, man.
So did I.
Yeah, but you know what though? The thing I like about the Dahlberg frog, and kind of what Chris said, is that you can fish it slow. And one of the guys that I respect the most because he's a great trophy bass fisherman. He can figure out the big bass better than anybody that I know around here. But he lives by this rule: you can either fish it really slow, any bait, either very very slow or very very fast, and no in between. And he typically catches bigger fish that way. And the Dahlberg frog, from what I can tell, is it makes it to where you can stay in the strike zone longer.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to look natural. If it doesn't look natural, the bass gets too good of a look at it, and you're not going to get bit.
Freaky how real that thing looks when it swims.
Yeah. And so I'm going to get one and try to figure it out, man, because that makes perfect sense. But then again, you got to have some patience. If you want to fish fast, keep it in the box because it ain't good.
Now, I did any of the times that I was fishing it was in the morning or night.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Even when I was diving it deep.
Yeah.
And the problem when I fished it in that MTB Slam is it was like midsummer, and the bass were just going crazy. They were schooling, and I did not want to fish a slow bait.
And it has to look natural. If it doesn't look natural. Yep. And so you're gonna Chris, you're gonna have to take some Dramamine before you go fishing. Slow it down. But dude, I can see it catching fish, And Dahlberg is a pretty good bait designer. And I'm trying to do muting at the same time while I'm talking. I've seen some of the stuff he has made to come out, and it's pretty cool. Seen pictures of it online and things like that. He is one of those tinkerers that just continues to push the envelope and make good bait. So,
I like the fact that those legs are made out of that Elastec type material.
Oh, are they?
Like
Okay.
Man does. The legs are made out. They're very very similar material. I mean, you take those legs and stretch them for like 3 feet.
So you can't dye them with JJs.
No, they actually tell you not to put it in like your Plano boxes or anything like that. And if you're gonna do it, to put it in like a Ziploc bag.
Yeah, that makes sense because
this stuff. Eat it up.
Yeah, they have a plastic softener in the material itself. Yeah, and I can see how it would soften up any plastic it touched. I'd love you ever put a bobber in with some soft plastics and watch you pull the bobber out about 2 weeks later and have a little faces eating in it from the soft plastics.
Learn that real quick.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm over here unmuting Michael because I had to mute him because of that echo. Well, cool. Do what? Go ahead.
I found that if I throw bigger baits, that I just don't catch any fish. But if I downsize to like a rooster tail or a inline spinner, I catch more baits. Is that normal?
Oh, you catch more fish, or you said more baits?
I catch more fish when I downsize.
So downsize.
I was wondering if that's normal.
Oh yeah, because and I teach this when I'm teaching parents how to teach their kids how to fish. Is small hooks and small baits catch any fish. Big baits can't catch little fish, and so you limit yourself when you want to catch nothing. If especially with kids, I tell them if you want your kid to catch a fish, use small stuff because they'll catch fish, and that's all they care about. And I've got one. Actually, I got a video on inline spinners that when the bait fish are really small, especially in the fall this time of year, they're chasing little bitty bait fish.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll go to an inline spinner when they're schooling, and I'll catch more fish on that inline spinner than I will a fluke, anything. You know, and mainly because you can cast it a long ways, and it looks like a small bait. So
inline spinners are good for the fall?
Oh yeah, definitely. They're good for. I always have one somewhere in one of my boxes. I actually have 3 different boxes that I keep them in, so I make sure I always have one in my tackle box all year long. I may not fish it all year long, but I've always got one in there somewhere. So because
rattle traps are good too.
Yeah, and traps, I have them spread throughout my boxes too. My rattle trap box weighs about 5 pounds. I've got to downsize. And I'm constantly pulling out the same 4 rattle traps.
I was going to say, you probably touch like 3 or 4 of them all year.
Yep, so I might be selling some soon, who knows. But
I also hear you talk a lot about throwing weightless trick worms.
Mm-hmm.
What do you use them mostly for?
I use them like a soft jerk bait in shallow water. They're a reaction style bait. I'll fish them just like I fish a fluke. Whenever anybody asks how to fish a weightless trick worm, I show them my how to fish a fluke video because exactly how I fish it. But I'm fishing in super shallow water around cover, and it works great in clear water. And my around here the color we use around here is that bright methylate color that Zoom sells. And we use it in super clear water. And there's nothing cooler than watching a 4-pounder come from nowhere and come in and follow behind your bait in 2.5, 3 foot of water and just eat the whole thing. And then you got to wait to try to set the hook. $10 says you miss it because I do every time.
Yeah, it must be cool. But around here we got very dark water.
So you do it. I would use with that dark water. I'd actually use either a white one or a black one. Either one of those 2 colors, especially if and you're throwing it close to that thick cover, so they're in that cover in that muddy water, and you can and it makes enough vibration. Excuse me, where it'll get their attention. So, but that's what I do. It's just a matter of it's just like a soft jerk bait.
That helps a lot.
They're great to follow up with too. Like
yeah.
if you miss one with a jig, I had this happen to me the other day. Gene, biggest fish I've ever seen in my life. I was swimming a jig back to me. He blew up, looked like toilet flush right in front of me, and I missed him. And it was the best, worst thing that ever happened to me all at the same time. But anyway, so I threw in a black trick worm, weightless, right back in, and he grabbed it immediately. But then he wound me up. I still didn't get him, but I mean, he hit that. He hit that weightless worm immediately after hitting that jig.
Yep, and I'm guilty of not following up with a bait like that, and I preach it and talk about it, and I still haven't got it to where it's an automatic thing. Reached out and grab one, but a trick worm, you're right. A weightless trick worm is perfect to have on the boat, locked and loaded and ready for a follow up. Because if you're throwing topwater, buzz bait, anything, it's you can chunk it out there right after they blow up and they'll hit it. Because you already have located them. That they haven't felt your hook yet, hopefully. And they want to bite. They're feeding, so you just throw it right back in there and catch them. So I talked about this on my last hangout, the one before that. There was actually a team tournament I was fishing with a buddy years ago, and the pattern, it was a night tournament, like 4 or 5 hour tournament, not long. But our pattern was he would miss them on a buzz bait, and I would stand there on the boat with the rod with the trick worm in my hand and throw right behind the buzz bait and catch the fish. And so they were just missing the buzz bait, and that's all they were doing. But we were catching them on that trick worm every time. So I just stayed there ready and waiting to cast, and he was running the bank. And we ended up finishing third, I think, second or third, fourth. We didn't win, but we did pretty good. So, but pretty cool little pattern. But you're right, they're a great follow-up bait. So 1, 2, 3. We got a bunch of people on.
I noticed the shirt, Gene. It's usually a Bass Resource shirt. Today, this mystery tackle box.
This is the official staff shirt of the mystery tackle box. No, they sent it to me, dude. I was so excited. I didn't even know they were sending it to me. And they sent it in the heat of the summer, and I put it up in my closet. And it was comfortable. It was a comfortable temperature. Yeah, man, it's a pretty cool shirt. But yeah, they are very appreciative of my MTB Slam. I kind of am. I'm proud of that little baby.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I have a question regarding the mystery tackle box, actually.
Yep.
I know this is being recorded and all, but what's your honest opinion about this soap?
It's soap.
Because I got it in this past box, and me and my buddy were like, "What the heck is this?"
You know, and it actually, I got it in my box last month or the month before last, and it makes, to me, it brings to light the fact that it'd be nice to keep a bar soap on, or some type of a soap on the boat, because or when you're fishing, because say you get, especially when you're fishing with a boat or fishing on a boat, you have to turn around and go squeeze the bulb on the motor to get the gas back in the motor, and you get residue and fuel all over your hands, and then you go to touch your baits and you don't catch any fish the rest of the day, or
why not just put hand sanitizer on your boat?
because the hand sanitizer actually has a residue itself, and it has a bad taste to it. And so I would rather use a soap than I would a hand sanitizer. And mainly because when I work at the hospital, we use hand sanitizer all the time. There's nothing worse than using a hand sanitizer, going and eating something and licking your fingers. Nasty. Golly, that stuff's nasty.
So, did you use it?
Yes, I did.
What'd you do? You put it on your hands and wash your hands in the water?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Heck yeah.
Is it like bad? Is it healthy?
Yeah, it's
for the
eco-friendly. Yeah, it's eco-friendly.
Okay.
Hey, Chris, here's something you might not know about that soap. I actually got an email the other day. Open the tab. They put a code on the inside of the thing. People in this month or last month's mystery tackle box is going to win a fishing reel or something like that.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't remember what kind of reel it is. It looks like a black
I'll tell you.
All right, you're blown up. Open it up. I want to see what's on the inside.
I was supposed to do the MTV Slam, but might as well open it. Are you sure it's supposed to be on the inside?
Blame it on me, Chris.
No, it was only 10 people. It was only 10 people. Yeah.
Oh, it was only 10
Oh, you made me open my soap.
I didn't make you do anything.
Oh, that's funny. But that's actually, that's a cool idea. And I wonder what the production deal looks like, And I'd love to. I'm the kind of person, dude. I'm like Gerald Swindle. I keep, wet wipes and toilet paper in my boat, And
Oh, me too.
I would love to see the profit on this stuff.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. But there's some cool stuff coming out next month's mystery tackle box. I've actually got a buddy that's got some. I got a bait coming out in the next tackle box. So.
Oh, cool. Did you get I don't know if it was, I got a little worm in last mystery tackle box, not September's, but I forgot how many. I don't know. I get so many of them. I get them every month, so I don't know which month it came in.
Yep.
They were clear, and they were maybe 4 inches. They were that big, and they had little ribbons on them.
I didn't get one of those.
I forgot what company it was from, but I didn't even want to fish it, to be honest with you.
It sounds like a drop shot worm, is what it sounds like.
It reminded me of a drop shot worm, but it's so hard in Central Florida to drop shot.
Yep. You know what I would do in Central Florida if I really was forced to drop shot is I would put it on a heavier action rod and basically do what they call a power shot. Just bigger hook, bigger bait, and punch it.
Don't get me wrong. The cool thing about the drop shot here is when you can do it, you get a lot of bites because I don't think the bass are used to that presentation.
Yeah.
It's almost like you can in that last mystery tackle box. I forgot what.
Yeah.
But in one of the, like I said, in the last mystery tackle box, or not the last, but the one I did with my buddy, I threw a little crawl on the drop shot and caught a fish on the first cast. So,
yep.
I just think it's a different presentation that they, are intrigued.
Yep. Yeah, keep doing those slams, man. Yours are pretty good. I like the video.
Well, we tried to do one this past time, but it was a horrible disaster.
Yeah,
So,
I can sympathize with you.
I mean, we picked the wrong day, bad weather,
Yep.
and we just, we were just on our John boat, so it didn't work out.
Yeah, I've got a whole trash can full of disasters in my computer. 1/3 of the videos I shoot actually get put on YouTube. So
I can understand.
So I tried to do. No, dude, I had a great idea for a video today because I gut hooked 2 fish, and after I threw the second one in the lake, I was like, man, I need to do a video on how to get a hook out of the gut of a fish because there's a technique to it that you can do it and it'll save the fish.
Isn't it behind the gill there?
Yeah, the behind the gill, rotate, flip it out. But I wanted to do it, so I said, man, I'm gonna keep throwing this Mojo rig. I'm gonna gut hook a fish, and I'm gonna caught 5 more fish and didn't gut hook any one of them. And then it was time to go home.
Eat it.
I tried. I let one of them had it for 45 seconds, and he swam off with it. And he came back, and it was in his mouth. And that's a Mojo rig, and I always gut hook them on a Mojo rig.
I've got a lot of gut hooks on the Carolina rig.
Yeah, the Carolina rig's the same thing. Yeah, it's really easy to do that, and you'll get to the point where you've got a feel for it, and you'll. It's just a matter of experience, and all of a sudden it'll click, and you won't get hardly any more gut hooks on them. So, but it's just timing.
Yeah, I've done that Carolina rig after your video a few times, and I still haven't caught a fish on it yet.
Yeah. Well, I even caught a fish today that had a Carolina rig hanging out of its throat. And I couldn't gut hook another one. It had and the hook actually was rusted. I reached down to pull it out, and it just popped. Just the eye of the hook popped out, and the rest of the hook was in the fish's stomach. And so I took the line and the swivel and threw it in the bottom of my boat. And so, but yeah, dude, I can't gut hook a fish, but I can catch one that's already gut hooked. That's for sure. Oh man, I'd forgotten about that one.
All right, well, it's good talking to you guys. Thanks for answering.
Yeah, Joseph, take care, man. Take care. All right, we're going to run this for about 15 more minutes. I've got to get up early in the morning, so. Anybody got any more questions?
How do you feel about swimming a jig this time of year, Gene?
That's what everybody does. I was thinking about it the other day. That's one of the things I really want to focus on as the fall progresses, as I want to do it more. Now that we have our water up on my home lake, and I'm fishing a lot more lakes that have that kind of shallow structure you can do that with, I've got about probably 6 or 7 swim jigs in a little box, and I'm going to do a lot more of it.
Okay, that's something I have a question about. People spot swim jig, casting jigs, jig this, jig that. I'm of the opinion I could swim any of them.
Yep.
Do you feel the same way?
To a point. There are some jigs that I wouldn't get very good hook sets if I was, because of either the type of the hook or the angle of the hook according to the eye of the, stuff like that. To get the optimum hook set, you want a jig that has, or a swim jig that has more of a spinnerbait type of hook. In other words, you get the eye that comes, that's maybe a what they call a 30-degree eye, and then you have the hook that's not quite a big meaty jig hook. A heavy cover jig I would never swim.
I think I have one.
Just because it takes so much mess it's so much power to set the hook on that. But then you've got the new swim jigs that come through the grass a lot better, bounce off a cover a little bit better. So you can swim any jig, but if you want to have a better chance of catching the fish that bites, then you want to get something that's somewhat similar to a swim jig, in type of hook mainly.
What type of trailers are you using for swim jigs?
Right now, the 2 that I'm using is either a fluke, or actually 3, a fluke, a grub, or a paddle tail swim bait, little paddles. Probably 6 or 7 swim jigs in a little one. What do they call them? The little Kitech swim baits that they sell, the short ones. So, but yeah, that's.
Just remember, I've lost my jig
all day long last Saturday, and didn't get a thing. I was disappointed.
There are some jigs that hold on a second.
What the heck?
That was Seth. He jumps on here and does that every once in a while. Thanks,
Does
Seth.
it really?
Yeah. Hey, you got these little kids that jump on here and do that all the time. So I tried to mute him, but I didn't get it fast enough. So,
That's kind of funny.
yeah.
I just remembered I lost my jig fishing last week.
Oh, really?
This is a trailer that I like to use.
All right,
Sometimes it's one of those Yum Ferocity, what do they call it? Yum Amphibian.
Yum.
Half-inch.
Yeah.
It's like a brush.
Yeah, kind of like a brush hog, but
oh, cool.
just because of the amount of action that you get, the amount of flutter, and I'll dip the last two little edges there in some JJ's Magic sometimes. But I get a lot of action off of that.
Great
trailer.
bait. Yeah, just jigging it on the bottom. Or that's what I've found. You know, you can even flip them. I don't know where you live, but in Florida, you know, we do a lot of flipping. So that's.
Yep.
Yeah, those are really good flipping baits, and the I use the speed the speed craws, and I'll clip all of the little legs off the speed craws when I'm punching big hit, you know.
Oh, cool.
And it just makes it slide down better.
Talking about flipping, I don't know, have you ever flipped a Cinco before, Gene?
I'll flip a speed worm.
I
basically
know it sounds
with
crazy,
a little paddle tail. So,
but you know, I don't know if you watch our videos or anything. I know you said you saw our MTV slam, but my buddy Matt and another YouTuber, we fished Kissimmee probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, and all we did was flip. It was Gambler's Ace, Fat Ace, black and blue, all day on Kissimmee.
Yep.
I landed a 6. My buddy caught a 5 and a 4 in a matter of 15 minutes. I mean, we just landed them all day and flipped nothing but Cincos. And my buddy, he lives by Cincos. Like, he says he doesn't find it's all confidence, you know, like you say. And he lives by the Cinco flipping it. He doesn't flip anything else except for the BB cricket during wintertime.
Now, I got a question about that video because I watched it. Did you catch all your fish in the same little area?
Yes and no. We caught the 6, the 5, and the 4 in the same area, but the rest of the day, you know, we did catch fish throughout the day. But the 6, the 5, and the 4 were, I tell you, within 30 minutes.
Did you ever go back to that spot and fish it again in the day?
We did not because I mean, we fished. Have you ever been on Kissimmee?
No, that's why I'm asking.
Okay, there's certain like islands, and I couldn't tell you the name because I don't. It was on my buddy's boat, and we fished around the island, and then on the north side of one island, the grass gets. He actually had a tournament prior to this, and he was like, "I've been catching all my big fish." It was his state tournament. He placed second.
Wow.
And he was 6 ounces away from going to nationals. But, he was catching all his fish in very thick grass, but we caught all those in very light
it was
grass.
kind of sparse. Yeah.
I actually made a comment to him. I was like, "What happened? I thought we were supposed to catch all the big fish in the thick grass." And patterns change. It was just really kind of funny.
Yep.
But a lot of the grass there, it does look the same, to be honest with you. Like, if we were to move across the lake and it was positioned correctly, it could look like the other side of the lake.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'd love to get down there and just stay there for months and just try to, because from what I understand, that the pattern will be what type and how thick the grass is all the time. It's just a matter of figuring out what grass they are. They might be on a junction between one type of grass and another type of grass, and the fish are always right there. It's just a whole different world. It's something I don't know a whole lot about, but I'd love to get down there and just play.
I will give you a tip. If you ever fish Kissimmee, in the grass, there's these little, we call them measuring sticks, but they're actually, it looks like they're just PVC pipe, and they're every, I want to say 30 yards, maybe every 100 feet. But there's always a fish on those PVC pipes. And
Just
they
something
range from small. Yeah, it's just it's kind of funny because every PVC pipe you come up on, it's like everybody on the boat flip your bait to that PVC pipe.
That's cool.
So you
But yeah,
get the
that's something different. You know, it's all this grass and all of a sudden a white post. That's hard. You know.
I will tell you why my buddy likes flipping the Cinco, because you can get a smaller tungsten on it and get through thicker stuff. So it's a smaller presentation with a, I guess you could say, bigger bait.
Something different. That's cool. That is really cool. I'm gonna have one in my boat then on when I get up to fish the hydrilla up at Chickamauga next week.
And it goes back to say, tell you or prove your point that fish will bite anything.
Yep.
Because that's
Right. Yeah.
Have you ever considered tournament fishing, like Elite Series or something?
I have, but the biggest problem is that my full-time job that actually pays my bills is Friday through Monday, and so I would have to make this whole fishing thing a full-time deal and go in the poorhouse to fish tournaments. And tournaments, I love to do it. Don't get me wrong. And one day I'm gonna do it, just for kicks, to see if all this crap that I've been teaching people for all these years and the years to come actually means anything, just to test myself. But I think I've found my calling in life. I really do. I feel like what I'm supposed to do and what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life is to do what the fishing industry's forgotten to do, is to teach you guys or teach everybody, as many people as I can, the details. And I don't know all the details. I'm still learning, but making videos gives me the excuse of learning. So tournaments are something that I will do, but I don't think I'll ever do it in the Elite Series or I may fish a couple of opens for fun, but I just don't see myself doing it, at least not in the next 15 years. Because I love to do this, man. It's just so much fun to see somebody start fishing and learn and hear your guys' success stories and things like that. So that's where I get my kicks. And plus, I'm not wasting more money than I'm making.
I'm not as big as you, or me and my buddy aren't as big as you, obviously, Gene, but I can kind of understand because, we live in Polk County, and I would argue that Polk County is one of the bass fishing capitals of the nation, if not the world. But it's amazing the age group of kids that, we only have like 400 subscribers, but it's amazing. My little brother just actually gotten the high school that I just graduated from, and his buddy, he actually wore my chain to school, which is it's pretty big, so it's almost like you can't miss it. And a kid next to him who's 2 years older than him asked him, he's like, "Hey, are you related to BYA fishing?" And I just thought that was the coolest thing, and people comment on our videos. They're like, "Oh, I see you guys fish this lake. Where do you guys, live? We should fish together, And we have actually fished with a couple, like, subscribers, I guess you could say, and it's just a great feeling.
Yep. Yeah. If I could encourage anybody to, is just go teach people, dude. It's so rewarding, And even Chris, what you're doing, people who watch you guys fish. And you guys will get, as you learn the YouTube game a whole lot better and things like that, you'll get to the point where you don't have to, that stuff's that you've made all the mistakes, and now you can just concentrate on the fishing, and then you can teach a little bit, stuff like that.
I will tell you, how they say teach something to become the best at it, or it's made me and Matt just so much better at fishing.
Oh, yeah, no kidding.
And it's funny how we went from just like a couple years ago, just fishing it felt like worms and frogs, and now we just throw anything that anybody says catches fish, and we dissect it. We're like, okay, we caught the fish at this time, in this weather, in this structure. It's crazy how, much better we become by trying to understand fishing just to teach it.
Yep. That's my behind the scenes excuse as to why I make videos. That's my selfish excuse because I've gotten so much better at catching fish every time I go out. You know, even if it's just a fish. You know, on tough days, I get so much better just because I've had the opportunity to teach people, and it's a blast. I mean, I totally enjoy it. And to hear people come back and talk to me and say, hey, look, you know, I used what you told me and I caught my new personal best. It may only be 3 pounds, but, you know, personal best. I'm like, that's, you know, and that's the reward that I get. That's my winning check right there. You know, I don't care about winning $1,000 in the tournament. I'd rather hear somebody say that than anything. So, but,
yeah, that was my experience. About 3 years ago, I ran into your video of Texas rigging, and ever since then, I've been bass fishing. And my dad's been bass fishing his whole life, and I picked up what I learned from your videos. And my dad's out there trying to figure out what he's doing wrong.
That's awesome.
I have a quick kind of random question.
Yeah, random Emil, go ahead.
Okay, that's cool, but
yeah, I'm kidding.
So yeah, this weekend there's a really big tournament going out of Lanier. It's like called the Camp Sunshine Tournament, and I think it's gonna be like it's usually like 150 boats or something. And you have to be 18 to fish it, but I'm just going like fun fishing on the same day of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the best idea, but like, do you ever have like specific things that help you when you're fishing and there's a bunch of people on the water? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like every point and spot I go to, there's going to be boats on it.
Yeah, I ignore them. Is the thing. I just fish what I fish. The MTB Slam I did this spring where I let that worm sit for like 5 minutes in a brush pile. That was in the middle of a 350 boat tournament on Clark Hill.
Was it the Big Bass Oakley one?
I don't remember. No, it wasn't that one. I don't remember which one it was, and it wasn't the Oakley one. It was a huge tournament. There were boats everywhere. There were people bass fishing out of center consoles, you know. And so, but I just fished my own little thing, you know, and it was all pre-spawn stuff.
That was probably one of your better MTBs.
Yeah, I caught that. It was a really good fish. I caught a bunch of really good fish that day, and so. You know, I just ignore them and I go fish my thing. And if I see something looks like it's got fish in it, I'm gonna you know cast to it.
So you don't think it really makes the day worse?
No.
Okay.
It's all between your ears. Just go fish. You know, out on Lanier, fish those brush piles. I don't know where they are right now. I've never fished it this time of year, so.
Yeah, I don't think they're on the brush anymore. Well, they probably still are some, but I think they're just pulling up on the points. And
yeah, it's starting to schooling up on the points.
Anybody getting a serious lag?
A what or swag?
A little bit of lag.
Do what, Chris?
A little bit of
lag. He asked
lag.
if anyone was getting a lag.
Oh, no, no, not getting a lag.
Is anybody getting a serious lag?
No, I think it's probably just your connection because ours are fine. All right. All right. Any more?
To myself.
Do what now?
I have a question specific to my situation.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, I live central Alabama, so I live close to the Coosa. I don't know if you know Logan Martin and.
Yeah, it's my favorite spotted bass lake, man.
Yeah. Well, my situation is I have a little John boat, but all I have is a trolling motor on it.
Yeah.
And I don't have a fish finder.
Okay.
So I was working on saving up for either a motor or a fish finder, and I was wondering what might be better. Because right now it's basically wherever I put in, I have a limited range. I have a couple of trolling motor batteries, but
fish finder.
Yep. Yeah, fish finder.
A cheap one or
at least the color one that you can afford.
Okay.
In other words, don't get a grayscale.
You can get really good yields.
Yeah, and check out a used one.
Yes, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, the one color one that you can afford, because I would never go back. Once I went color, I'd never go back to grayscale. Yeah, I'll tell you right now.
It shows so much more detail and you can actually see if something's alive or if it's just a stick.
And then when you upgrade to a bigger one later on in life, you'll understand that one a whole lot more. You're not. It's not like starting from ground zero. So.
Right.
That's definitely what I would do, and then just then save your money for a little 8 horsepower motor or something. So
yeah, because I'm just terrible about fishing history right now. So.
Yeah, just fish. The thing I did when I fished. Now my first boat was loaned to me by my father-in-law. It was a 10-foot John boat. I slid into the back of my pickup truck, and it had one of those early 80s trolling motors. Got the little box about that big on the top of it, and it was just I think it was like a 12-pound thrust.
Oh God.
And so I'd slide it into the lakes and go fishing with it. But the thing is the one thing I would focus on for you, Daniel, is especially Logan Martin. Look at the bank, and let the bank tell you what's barely under the water, what's under the water in that first few feet in the water. I love fishing this time of year. I love to fish boat ramps on Logan Martin. Because everybody's got a boat ramp, and you got private boat ramps everywhere. Well, what happens is as the bluegill pull up onto those boat ramps from now until wintertime, and the bass are just congregating on those boat ramps. So if you can put in at a local ramp and then stay in that general area and fish, laydowns or anything you see you come up on, but when you get to a boat ramp, you focus on it and you make several casts to it, and then go fish the dock and everything else. But just, fish what you got, dude. There's fish there, especially this time of year. They're moving up shallow anyway, so.
Yeah, sometimes it's a benefit probably to not have a motor because you force to fish what you have, and then you actually catch fish where you are because you have to actually concentrate on it.
Yep, and you learn what's on the bottom. You learn, what causes the fish to bite because that's all you got. So, man, I love Logan Martin. I've been only fished there twice, and I love spotted bass. So that was the two best spotted bass days I've ever had were on Logan Martin.
Yeah, I live 15 minutes from it, so usually where I go.
Gene.
Yeah.
So I feel like I saw a video. What kind of trolling motor do you have again? Is it the Tour Digital 82-pound? No, because I have the same one and I have a question about it.
No, I had to go buy an emergency Minn Kota Maxim last night.
Oh, that's why you left. Okay.
That's why I laughed. Right now I'm eating an $850 trolling motor. So, yeah.
Wait, did you have that one?
Yeah, it died yesterday morning.
What happened?
I've got to get it fixed, but I've got guide trips coming up and everything else, and so by the time I get it fixed, I had to get a backup. And
what happened?
So the magnets on the inside came loose.
Oh crap! Is that common?
Yeah, it's fairly common. It's only like a $7,500 fix. So, but it's just it takes too long. They've got to go in there and they've got to set it just right and epoxy it back in place. And
have you ever had the problem of like it binding up and just stopping, like you can't pull it out?
You're talking about the
pull cord. Yeah.
The gator mount? Yes. You have to step on it.
Yeah, no, I do that all the time. I have to step on it to get it out. I'm saying it won't come out after that.
Check the little...
I fixed it, but I'm saying it's like, do you ever have that problem?
Oh, all the time. All the time.
I like took a screwdriver and pried out the little steel piece, and then it came out.
Yeah, the little steel piece will pop out a little bit and get in the way, and then the other thing is that you'll work and I've got this problem with mine. You'll work a groove inside those notches.
Yep.
And you have to get a Dremel tool and file them down and sand them down and get them smooth again, and they'll stop doing that for a while. It's just that the bracket itself, the great gator mount itself, is made out of just years and years of pounding it with that little pin. That pin's harder than the metal that gator mount's made out of, and
it grinds it.
Yeah, it puts a ding in it. So. Same issue. Just break out a Dremel tool and file that down, and smooth it out. So.
I got a question, Gene.
Yeah, man, go ahead.
I have some creeks that run through my neighborhood. There's a lot of brackish water.
Yep.
And at the beginning of it, there's a main bayou, and bass just hang out right there. And I'm having trouble getting them to bite on anything except trickworms. Is there any suggestions for brackish water?
Throw a trickworm.
Yeah, they're biting on trickworms.
Dude, I like in that brackish water, and is it now? Some people call tannic water brackish water, so I want to make sure I'm talking about the right kind of water. Is it that red swamp water that you guys have down in the bayou?
I live in South Alabama, in Mobile.
Okay.
So it's right where salt water is.
So it is brackish water. Okay. Dude, if they hit trickworms, they'll hit jerkbaits. They'll hit anything moving.
Fluke.
Fluke. they'll, and then the problem is that down there you have a lot of sediment down on the bottom. So I wouldn't, something that hits the bottom is probably going to get buried in that silt anyway. And so the fish will never bite it. So anything that's up off the bottom, I did something really, oh shoot, I wasn't going to say this. I did something really cool on my mystery tackle box today, and I wanted to show it to you guys on the mystery tackle box.
Was it on Clark's Hill?
Yeah, it was on Clark Hill. But I took a Mojo rig and I put a Elastec bait, the little Fluke Elastec bait on it, on the Mojo rig, and it actually, I only put the weight about 4 inches in front of the hook, and it floated. It's a lightweight hook anyway. That little Fluke Elastec Fluke floated up high. Yeah, exactly. It floated up high above the weight. So when I drug it, it sunk. So I drag it a little bit, it sink down, and then float back up, and looked like it's just suspended off the bottom, and the bass just tore it up. And I was thinking to myself, that would be something perfect to fish on silty bottoms. A lightweight that doesn't sink down in the silt, and the bait stays high up above. And I'd make the length a little bit longer, high up above that silt. And so light line. So I'm looking 8-pound test fluorocarbon, or even monofilament would work because you're working with a floating bait. And then that Elastec or that Z-Man Fluke, or even any of the Z-Man baits, put it on a light hook. Then make sure that when you put it in the water, make sure that it floats that hook, and that hook doesn't sink it, which I doubt it will anyway. And it'll float it up above that silt. So that's something I would try there too. But I tried it for the first time today, and they were whacking it. So
how do you rig them? Go ahead.
Do what? Good. Do what?
I was gonna say, how do you rig the Mojo rig?
You'll have to watch the video.
You're gonna okay.
I've got a video on a Mojo rig, and go on my channel and search Mojo rig, because there's a specific way I do it, and you can use any type of a lightweight, bullet weight or anything else. I use these little cylinder weights that I make myself, and there's a company called Mojo that makes them too. And and it's just a pegged weight, kind of a Finesse Carolina rig deal. Okay. So
I do that a lot too, but sometimes I just use a regular split shot.
Yeah. Yes, it's the same thing as a split shot rig. Exactly. The only reason I use a Mojo over a split shot is that cylindrical weight comes through the grass a whole lot better than a split shot. But if I'm not fishing grass, a split shot would work just fine. So.
Did you get the box with the bluegill swim bait or with the gizzard shad one?
Gizzard shad.
Okay, that's nice.
Yep. And a spinner bait.
Did you get the river to sea swim bait?
Nope. Nope. So
I got
massive
swim baits.
They're not massive. They're pretty tiny. There's like a bunch of them here.
Oh, I got these big ones that were like 4 or 5 inches, and they're just like freaking lunkers.
I've got a rod outside. I just tied a 9-inch swim bait that weighs 5 ounces onto. I don't want to hear 4
Which one?
Yeah, that's how big mine was.
Which one is it?
It's the bull herring, or not the bull herring. It's the bull shad.
I thought the bull shad only weighs like 1.5 ounces.
Not
the 9-inch. Okay.
9-inch one.
You can fish that.
It looks like a tennis shoe.
That's for real, man. I was like, how am I gonna catch bass with this thing?
Oh yeah, I fish it. I can fish it. Yeah.
Talking about big baits, Gene, have you fished that flutter spoon?
I have. No, I checked it. I should have bought some at the FLW championship down here in Columbia, but I fished the smaller ones. But I saw that son of a gun. It is huge. It's the size of your forearm.
I remember when I saw it, I was like, "Is that a joke?"
No, dude. It makes sense if they're feeding on big stuff and they're schooling up and they're competitive for their, But I think it's just a situational thing. I only do good in those things when I'm fishing an area that's got a school of fish in it.
Well, how do you hook the fish though if it has just a little treble hook down at the bottom? You got a huge spoon like that. You got a huge spoon. That's like
because of the way the fish grabs it. It's fluttering down, and the way it flutters the hook end is deeper than the line tie end, so it's fluttering down like this, and they grab it from the bottom end. So that's they'll have it choked. So I can see how it'd be possible, and it would only catch the biggest ones.
I feel like it's one of those things that everyone's like, oh, you know, the new this, the new that, and then the fish get used to seeing it.
Yep.
And then it's nothing special anymore.
Yep. Or the people realize now they got to go buy a new rod to fish one single bait. You know.
I saw a video. A guy was like, you need an extra heavy rod. Yeah. I don't even own a heavy action rod. But.
Yeah, I'm just now getting into chatterbaits. I'm just that type of. I just don't like getting into the new in thing.
I don't fish.
But yeah, I saw them and they're cool looking baits, but you know, I can catch them on a smaller flutter spoon too, and I can catch a whole lot more fish. So I just won't catch the biggest ones out of the school to start with. But it is what it is.
Gene, you was talking about like when you fishing a school of fish.
Do what, Zoe? I can barely hear you.
Yeah, you were saying about like fishing a school of fish, like you actually went out and looked for fish on your. If you actually look for fish on your fish finder.
No. It's when I get into an area where I'm catching a lot of fish in the same exact spot, and so like they get stacked up on the ledges, they get stacked up on points, and there's just a bunch of them right in the same area. It's like they're all corralled in the same spot, and that's
that's what I'm saying. Like if you see them on your fish finder, how do you attack that school? Like, do you go back? I mean, like, you know, like how your side scan.
It depends on if I've gone over top of them. Usually, if I see a school on my side scan, I'll pull back and go right over top of them. If they're deeper than, say, my rule of thumb is between 12 and 15 feet. If they're deeper than 12 to 15 feet, then I'll just I'll turn right back around and fish them. You know, but if they're shallow, I leave and I'll come back, 45 minutes, an hour later, and try to catch them.
Right, because you'll spook them.
Because you spook them out.
Clear water.
Yep. And it all depends on water clarity. Good point. I just pull out and I'll come back later and try them and see if they're there, or I'll come back the next day if I'm fishing the next day. It's just one of those things. And unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, you don't get bit, and there may or may not be bass or things like that. It's just a matter of you see them by eliminating that area or figuring out. You go back to fish them to see if you can eliminate that area, or if you're gonna, if they're there and you're gonna catch them. So
like when you see that big school, do you put your buoys down and like as soon as you see them on your fish finder, they're there. Like when you run your boat, do you drop one down and then turn around, drop another one? Or
I hit a waypoint on my GPS. The only time I drop down is when I'm marking cover that I'm having trouble staying on a spot, and I'm marking a piece of cover that I want to come back and fish. Only problem with putting marker buoys down nowadays is somebody will come by and fish them with you.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So, but the one thing I use marker buoys for the most nowadays is just if I'm fishing way offshore and I'm having trouble keeping my boat in one position, I'll drop a marker buoy down right next to my boat to keep me at that spot.
Right, because then you can just go back to it.
Yeah, and it's not marking where I'm fishing; it's just marking where the boat's sitting.
Where the boat was when you landed it. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you actually fish off your your point or
my map.
Okay.
Yeah, on my front fish finder.
The only thing I don't get about that is how do people know? Like they're always like, "Oh, my waypoint's right here." How do you know that you're landing on your waypoint? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like because it's hard to find like the same spot when you get on water. Like I know.
Well, it's not. Yeah, like I'm saying, if you have a waypoint, you can go back to your waypoint. But how do you know that like you're casting onto that waypoint? Because it shows it pretty vaguely on the map. You don't know like.
By understanding it.
Yeah, by understanding, but in the more expensive the fish finder, the faster it updates your map. But the thing is that by trial and error, really, what I did is I marked the boat dock this is how I learned how far away it was. I had my map set at 100 feet, and I marked my boat dock with a waypoint, and I went out and I turned around and got on my trolling motor, and I got one cast from that boat dock, and I looked down to see how far away that waypoint was from where my boat was.
Was it accurate?
And yeah, and so I know by looking at how, and it's at 100 feet, it's about a quarter of an inch, a little bit more than a quarter of an inch. So I know if my boat icon on my map on my GPS is a quarter of an inch away from the waypoint, I'm one cast from that waypoint.
So a quarter inch is 100 feet.
It depends on your fish finder, and it depends on
an HDS.
No, this is the Elite 7. But it depends on your fish finder. It depends on what your setting is, either 100 feet, 50 feet. What you have and how you. It's just a matter of figuring it out for yourself.
I thought you hated the HDI. Oh my bad.
We're still recording.
I forgot. You can cut that out.
I'm dealing with it right now. So yeah, it's not my favorite thing in the world.
You were talking about hummingbirds.
Yeah, and but hopefully I can get all the electronics eventually that I would like to have on the boat, but not really a priority. But like I said, just figure out that distance of that cast, and that's a good way to do it. Is just mark your boat dock, turn around, and then wherever you docked your boat at, turn around and see how far it is one cast from it. So
and how far do you zoom in on that? I mean, like
as far as I can. When I'm fishing up in the front of the boat, the HDI, the Elite 7, depending on what you're showing on your screen, if you have it divided into thirds, you have your map and you have your side scan, you have your regular fish finder or regular sonar. It only lets you go to 100 feet, but if you have it split screen where it's just two things, it lets you go down to 50 feet. And that's another one of the things I don't like about it. I want to be able to go down to 50 feet no matter what. But anyway, and I don't know what that 50 feet means, because you're looking at a whole lot more than 50 feet on that screen. So what is 50 feet? I don't know. It's just.
Yeah, and then you was talking about like how you can see a boat, but like when I troll, your boat, like when I look at my fish finder, you always end up in a round dot instead of a boat icon. Now, how does that? Do you have to go like a certain speed to pick that boat icon up? Or?
I think it's more of your settings. What kind of fish finder do you have?
798.
A 7. Oh,
yeah.
That's a hummingbird.
Because if I was drifting, just let the wind drift me. Mm-hmm. I couldn't find myself on there, or it wouldn't never show which direction I was going. But if I started trolling kind of fast, then it started like showing up errors.
Yeah. A GPS only knows what direction you're facing if you're moving that direction, because it's your GPS that's telling the fish finder what direction you're going, or what direction you're pointing. And the only way it knows the direction you're pointing is actually you are moving in that line. So what I typically do is if I'm sitting still and it's doing all kinds of crazy stuff, I look down at my map and I see where the bank is, and I try to judge where I'm at according to where the bank is.
As far as range, if you're like when I'm fishing a brush pile in like 35 feet of water, 30 feet of water, or anywhere from like 20 to 35 feet, I'll have mine set on 40 feet. Do you like it a lot more so you can have a double echo, or do you like it right there at the bottom?
No, I like it right at the bottom. I only need to see a double echo when I'm looking for hard bottom.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah. What if I'm trying to find like an old road bed that I think exists but I don't know? I'll blow it up and
right, because it gives you a lot more realistic picture if you had it set to what you're actually at.
Yeah, and I manually set mine. I don't like mine auto because I lose a lot of detail when it switches from one to the other. So
yeah, I use manual.
Yeah, I always use manual.
So you always adjust yours, like say if you was fishing 30 foot, you just set it at 30 foot.
Yeah, I'd set it at 35 feet.
40.
35.
Yeah, 35 to 40. Yeah, 40's fine too. It's just a matter of how much detail you want to see. The more you set, the more you blow it. The further out you go, the less detail you see on the bottom anyway. So. Yeah. But yeah, I try to stay within 10 of wherever I'm at.
Okay. So I think I spend like more time messing with my fish finder than actually fishing.
It's because you got a side imaging.
Yeah. Like I was like, what the heck's going on?
Well, one of the things I always teach, especially when you're looking for fish, is spend the first couple hours of the day just running around with your fish finder, looking for bait, looking for life, looking for this, that, and
So true.
you know, and then go fishing. I mean, you're wasting a whole lot of time if you're not close to the fish, just stopping and fishing, you know. But if I'm pulling into a boat, if pulling like this morning, pulling the boat down the ramp, and I look out and I see bait fish as far as the eye can see, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on my fish finder. I'm going to go fishing because I already know that the bait fish are right there. So I'm going to go looking just for a minute, and then I'm going to go fishing.
Has it cooled down a lot down there in Georgia?
Yeah, we've gone from a high 80 water temperature down to high 70s now, so it's cooled down quite a bit. So
I was thinking about starting doing some crappie fishing after I watched your video last year. You know.
I caught a bunch last week. I went through 5 dozen minnows last week in 2 days.
Yeah, that was so.
Yeah. The crappie are getting right. They're out in the middle. Right in this time of year, the crappie are out in trees, out in the middle of the lake, suspended on trees, on just about anywhere, or deeper brush piles. They'll be in those brush piles that people put out in 15 to 25, 30 foot of water, depending on your lake, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'm about once a week from here until December. I'm gonna go crappie fishing. So. That's what I fill my freezer with. Yeah, go ahead.
What rod do you recommend that's by Duckett for jigging?
What kind of jig?
Football.
Football head jig is I would assume it'd be a heavier wire jig. At least a medium heavy, but I'd go with the heavy action. 7.3, I think it's what it is, 7.4, 7.3. I can't remember what the length is. But
which one, the Ghost or the Micro Magic?
Either one. Depends on what you can afford.
All right. What reel do you think would go good with that?
Which one can you afford?
Lose
you know,
I was thinking about
yeah, the Lose is such an excellent reel. They have hit such a home run with that reel.
The Pro Qualifier is nice too.
Yeah, and like I said, you get the best one you can afford. I don't push any brands. I talk about Lose all the time. I talk about and I use all Revos. But when I see a good deal and a good product, I'm going to tell you about it. And but I don't. That's why I stay away from branding stuff, because I just think that there's so much out there. But the most important thing is get a good quality reel, at least.
Like the Oxumas, right?
Yeah.
I think like you say, Gene, you say Revo. I think Abu is the only way to go, man. Because I was trying to clean up my reel last time, and for some reason it locked up on me. I sent it in. It was still under warranty. They just sent me a brand new one.
A brand new one, yeah.
No question asked.
Yep, yeah. You'll get great quality or customer service from Abu. I've never had a problem with them. The lady you talked to on the phone, I can't remember, Carol or something. I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
But golly, she has helped me so much.
Fluker's customer service sucks. Let me just say that. Right.
They send me 2 rods. I have a cranking rod that broke, and I sent them back in, and I broke another one, and then sent them back in. And then,
you guys stay online real quick. I'm going to go ahead and end this video, and we're kind of going way off on tangents and stuff. It's time to shut it down. So, hey, is that my music?
That's me, man. My phone's going crazy.
Is that my time to go music? That's awesome. What do they call it, bumper music? So, but anyway. All right. Well, I'd like to thank everybody that joined in on the Hangout tonight. I know it was a little boring for some of us, but we had a good time talking. Next time, I think I'm gonna start doing these once a month right now, just because I want to get a whole bunch of instructional videos up, and so I'll figure out what Thursday night during the month I'm gonna do it for the next few months. But anyway, well, like I always say, visit bassresource.com for the answer to all your questions about bass fishing. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out my other YouTube channel, which is called Flukemaster Reviews. And subscribe to it. But one thing I'm starting to push is I want my subscribers to start sharing my videos on social media. I want to get the word out that I can actually teach somebody how to fish. You know, so So I want to introduce as many people as I can to bass fishing, but I can't do it without the help of my subscribers and those people who watch my videos. So the more of my videos that get shared on Facebook and on Instagram and on all the other social media sites, the better, because, dude, I just want to teach people how to fish. So get out on the water, introduce somebody to fishing, and have a great day.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. Y'all stick around. I'm going to